In February 1935, a chimpanzee at the London Zoo gave birth to a daughter. A few months later, a little blonde-haired girl was given a soft toy replica of the zoo's new arrival for her first birthday. This was Jane Goodall's first recorded encounter with a chimpanzee.
Meet Jane Goodall, a primatologist and conservationist who was born on April 3, 1934 in London, England. From a young age, Goodall was fascinated with animals and their behaviors. This love for the wild only flourished as she grew older, and soon Jane was making discoveries in Tanzania that would undo long-accepted scientific theories about chimpanzees and human ancestry. Although primarily recognized for her encounters with chimpanzees, Jane Goodall is also influential in history for her extensive achievements and exchanges as an environmentalist and exploration of primatology and anthropology. The path to higher education was not an easy one for Jane, as she could not afford to go to a university after graduating high school. She was working at Oxford as a secretary when she met the illustrious anthropologist and paleontologist Louis Leakey. She was invited by Leakey to attend Cambridge University to earn her PhD in ethology. Although she was stigmatized as an uneducated woman in the field of anthropology, Goodall was able to overcome these obstacles and introduce a new role in modern science, inspiring many women to take part in the development of new scientific discoveries. Although few studies have been successful, Leakey pushed Goodall to conduct a long-term isolation in the wild to study chimpanzees. He thought that learning about higher primates' behavior would advance the knowledge of the common ancestry theory. Many scientists were against Leakey's selection of Goodall because she was a woman who did not have any formal scientific education and lacked even a general college degree.
Having women in science is really important for bringing different perspectives to research questions. You might think about research in different ways. And so Leakey thought it was really important to bring women into the field. He thought that women actually had a better temperament to study primates in this way, to go into their natural environments and observe their behaviors.
Nonetheless, on the morning of July 14, 1960, Goodall ventured into what is present-day Tanzania, equipped with only a notebook and binoculars. Her project was called the Gombe Reserve Project, on the shore of Lake Tanganyika in the Gombe Stream Reserve. Goodall's first attempts to approach the chimpanzees were fruitless, as she could not get closer than 500 yards of their feeding area before they fled. After some time, however, Jane learned to implement a non-threatening pattern of observation and was soon accepted by the chimps.
Goodall established what she called the Banana Club, which was a daily systematic feeding method she used to gain trust and a more thorough understanding of everyday chimpanzee behavior. Through the Banana Club, she became closely acquainted with more than half of the reserve's chimpanzees. She realized that the stronger, more dominant males were the ones that took most of the food, while the smaller, weaker ones, primarily the females and babies, stayed back, a behavior similar to that manifested in humans. Goodall imitated chimpanzee behaviors, spent time in trees, and ate the same foods that the chimps consumed. Other scientists criticized Goodall for giving the chimps names rather than numbers.
Well, so she came under a lot of criticism for her empathetic approach, and there were people who criticized this humanization of animals because there was this idea that there is a dividing line between the human world and the animal world, and that perhaps it was not appropriate for her to be attributing human emotions to animals.
Goodall was among the first to claim that animals were capable of having emotions and other human-like traits. She remained in nearly constant contact with the chimps and discovered several behavioral traits. They had a complex social system with rituals and used primitive but recognizable communication methods.
Research was really important in terms of understanding chimpanzee behavior and really attributing a lot of what we would consider uniquely human emotions to chimpanzees. So things like joy, things like greeting one another, even instances of grief when a member of the troop died. I think she was really instrumental in sort of, if you want to call it, humanizing primates for us, which hadn't really been done before.
Goodall was the first to make recorded observations of chimps eating meat and making and using tools. Ethologists had long thought that chimps were exclusively vegetarian. Jane observed two chimps inserting blades of grass or sticks into termite hills to lure termites onto the blade. At times, they folded or changed the grass to better fit the hill, exhibiting chimps' problem-solving skills and intelligence. Tools were originally believed to be exclusively used by humans, a way to discern humans from animals. This discovery proved to be groundbreaking in the understanding of the animal kingdom and the common ancestry theory.
One of the studies to learn about chimpanzees, so there's been that exchange of information for Disruption Week because we've learned so much about chimpanzees and about what we are in comparison to these fascinating creatures.
Culture is learned behavior. Well, does that mean then that chimpanzees have some kind of culture? Because the infants are learning how to use tools by observing their mothers. Right? So I think that she was really instrumental in opening up this new idea that, well, tool use does not define humanity. It doesn't define human ancestors. So we have to think differently about, well, what does it mean to be human?
Chimpanzees are more like us than any other living creature biologically and as far as behavior is concerned. And by learning more about them, we understand more about our evolutionary pathway. And we also learn to be a little humble and realize we are part of and not separated from the rest of the animal kingdom.
Over her 50 years of work, Goodall has received nearly 50 honorary degrees, become a UN Messenger of Peace, and been named Dame Jane. Goodall has inspired women to dominate long-term primate behavioral studies worldwide. The pioneer primatologist travels the globe to speak up for the captive and orphaned kin of wild chimpanzees. Jane Goodall established the Gombe Stream Research Center, which makes revolutionary findings about chimpanzee tool-making and other behaviors. It operates as a world-class research station in which the best available methods are used to further develop the long-term primate research projects and enforce sustainable agricultural methods. The Jane Goodall Institute was formed in 1977 as a nonprofit organization in order to focus on promoting the health and conservation of chimpanzee habitats, supporting community-centered conservation, and protect great apes and primates from disease and trafficking. After attending a conference in 1986 and learning that chimps were illegally hunted, she directed her energy towards educating the public about conserving chimpanzees and other animals' endangered habitats. She says, "I went to that conference as a scientist and left as an activist." Thus, she established the Congo Basin Project, which prevents chimp annihilation and provides a safe haven for orphaned chimps. In 1991, she launched Roots and Shoots, one of her most far-reaching conservation programs.
Shoots program is now in 131 countries. It has members from preschool all the way through university, even some adult, and it's basically every group chooses 3 projects. They choose it themselves. One to help people, one to help animals, and one to help the environment we all share.
She was appointed the United Nations Messenger of Peace in 2002. She focuses on conservation, addressing climate change, combating deforestation, preventing air and water pollution, promoting the safe management of toxic wastes, and sheltering endangered animals.
Also, a female scientist with the voice of authority is really important for her to be a spokesperson for conservation. And so what she's done is taken her field research and the sort of fame that she's gotten being this woman in this kind of field, and used it as a way to convey the importance of issues of conservation, and particularly of primates. That studying chimpanzees is really important, but the broader picture is this idea of preservation of biodiversity.
Through her lifelong dedication and yearning for knowledge, Goodall revolutionized the way humanity views our genetic and ancestral descent. She explored the scientific inquiry and methodology of gathering data and making observations about primates, specifically chimpanzees. The patience that was evident in her work in Gombe paved the path for behavioral studies of primates in the wild. Goodall's encounters with chimpanzees revealed their intelligence and culture, lessening the long-thought intellectual superiority of humans. Her exchange with other scientists and the public ultimately opened our eyes to relationships of animals and people, as well as the meaning of humankind.
But Jane emphasizes the role that individuals have and how important it is for each of us to do what we can to improve the world around us, and that we can all make a difference. We all do make a difference.